Hello, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host, Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, Taurus Sun, and Libra Rising. And today you're going to learn what the hell that means. Alright, so for today's mini dose, we're going to just do a little dabble into some astrology. So anybody that's been interested in learning a little bit more past, their sun sign or the sign that everybody knows based off of when they were born, this is a good episode for you. I'm going to give a little bit of a primer on the big three. So that's what I just listed about myself, my sun, my moon, and my rising. Today I'm going to talk about what each component of the big three symbolizes, and then I'm going to give a short little list of traits and characteristics for all of the 12 astrological signs, so that you can refer back to this almost as a guide. If you ask your friends about their big three, if you're curious about your own, you can always return to this and hear a little bit about what each sign means, and what each position means. So just to give credit where credit's due, some sources of my learning that have been really important are the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast by Chani Nicholas. Chani is like one of the queens of astrology. She makes a really good follow on Instagram if you want to learn more. And then, especially for today's episode, the book The Inner Sky by Stephen Forrest has been huge in my understanding of astrology, and has some really good information if you want to learn more. So, before we get into the big three, let me just say real fast, astrology is whatever you want to make it. If you want to make it a fun little party topic to ask people, if you want to use it as a self-reflective tool, or if you want to use it as like a companion and a guide for your life, that is accessible. All of those options are accessible to you. So it doesn't have to be some core part of your belief system to learn more about yourself through this tool. I think it's super cool in a mental health and kind of wellness application, because it does serve as a good self-reflection tool when you learn more about your signs or your planetary positions and your birth chart, and you start to piece together a puzzle of what picture it's painting of you, and then how that resonates with you. Do you relate? Does it make more sense? Does it help you understand yourself better? Maybe some things that you've struggled with, or that you feel come easily to you. And maybe astrology has a little bit of a representation for why that is, and kind of putting the puzzle pieces together. And if you don't want to go that far, you don't have to go that far, especially not in today's mini dose, because really we're just barely scratching the surface. As I said, we're going over the big three, otherwise known as the primal triad today: your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. If you don't know what these are for you, you can go online. I think there's a lot of free websites. I'll link one below, to generate your birth chart. To do this, you just need to know when you were born, like the day and the time, and then where you were born. To start off, the sun is the one that everybody kind of knows. When somebody says, hey, what's your sign? You're probably going to say your sun sign, because it's based off of the months loosely. This is associated with the identity or the ego. This is a big part of your personality. It's going to be a lot of what drives you. If you're familiar with the chakra system, solar plexus chakra, it's the core. It's associated with achievements and kind of what we're striving for in life. So then on the flip side, we've got the moon. The moon, this one is fun. This one is kind of known as the sign that you are when you're alone, or when you're really comfortable with people, because it's associated with your inner world, your emotions, your feelings, emotional needs. So this is more of the sensitive. If we think about moon, a lot of times it's associated with the feminine qualities, and the sun is more associated with masculine qualities. And how that shows up really in astrology would be more like the sun is going to be more outward facing, readily apparent, and the moon might be a little more hidden, more private, because of that emotional inner world nature to it. It's very much that heart energy. And then we've got the rising. So this is kind of known as how you appear when people first meet you. This is almost the channeling and the funneling of the sun and moon energies into like day-to-day expression. The sun and moon have really big energies, can be more symbolic or metaphorical or harder to kind of channel down, but the rising is going to be, that day-to-day expression, how to bring those big energies and driving forces into our life. Maybe your job might be a little bit more reflective of your rising sign than your sun or your moon. There's a really fun little sentence that you can fill in the blanks for and get kind of an immediate understanding for how your sun, your moon, and your rising function. So there's like a lot of charts and lists of archetypes of each astrological sign online. I'll have one linked in the show notes. But you can also just Google one and it'll come up with a list of each sign and the archetypes that are associated with them. So, something like Cancer might have the archetype of the mother because it's very nurturing, very loving. So if you go and look at one of these charts and you pick out archetypes for each of your sign, you can then fill them into this sentence. And it is, I am the blank with the soul of the blank, wearing a mask of the blank. And how you fill it in is sun, moon, rising. You start with your sun, you are the soul of your moon, and you are wearing the mask of your rising. So an example using my archetypes is I am the artist with the soul of the healer, wearing a mask of the peacemaker. Okay, the artist, that's Taurus. The soul of the healer, that's Cancer. And wearing the mask of the peacemaker, Libra, my rising. So that can be really fun. That's a fun thing to kind of pull out with friends too, and just fill in that sentence and kind of start to develop an understanding of how the three of these work together. And mine, at least in my opinion, is pretty harmonious. I'm an artist, I'm a healer, I'm a peacemaker. It's like, okay, sweet. She's not going to be a lawyer. That's cool. But you might notice that you have some that like seem really different. Maybe you're the daredevil with the heart or the soul of the nurturer. And then it's like, okay, interesting. That's kind of adding a new flavor. And then maybe your rising is the journalist. So then you can start to get this picture of, okay, how does that show up in my life? And how do I equate all three of these things? I think sometimes people that maybe have more opposing pieces to themselves, or like, they've got these two sides, they're always kind of torn between two paths. Maybe your sun and your moon and your rising might have a little bit to do with that. You might be surprised, because I would say for me, mine being pretty harmonious, going together, it makes sense for me. I'm a pretty harmonious person. I feel like I'm not super torn between different sides of myself. I think a lot of me is usually in pretty good agreement on who I am and what I want to do. Okay, so now the fun part, probably what you've been waiting for, is a brief little list of the signs and their characteristics. I tried to make this as fun as possible, and also not just relying on the same old tropes. Geminis. You hear, don't trust a Gemini, they're two-faced. Yeah. I don't really like to play into that, because no sign is good or bad or better than worse than others. We have such complex expressions of our signs, especially based off of the context of the whole birth chart, which is a lot more even than the big three. And I also just don't like to lean on these tropes and negative stereotypes when people are learning about their signs, because they're just not that black and white. So I try to lean away from that and more into some of the positive characteristics, or really kind of the core energy behind the sign. So let's just start with Aries. So Aries, I'm going to be honest, this is a bitch that you're going to want on your side if there's like a war. Or if, you're having to go into the boxing ring. You're going to want the Aries backing you. Because they're really courageous. They can be fiery. It's the first sign in the astrological new year. So they really come guns blazing, starting off a new cycle. And a big thing that they might do in their life is choose to face their fears, to climb mountains that scare them. Then we have Taurus. Tauruses are deeply grounded and connected to the physical world. This is why sometimes they get known as materialistic, just because they're really connected with their senses. And they like stability and consistency. That's why you might hear a little bit of the bull, because the stubbornness, that can be just associated with the fact that they like stability. And they're going to seek simplicity and peace for the most part. Then we have Gemini. Geminis are verbal. They like to listen and they like to talk. They're all about the written word, about thinking and learning something new. They can see things from both sides. So this is where the two-face comes from. Geminis are really good at seeing things from both sides. So they might make something like a good lawyer, or somebody that has to be able to understand an argument from all different angles. They're going to be the one that's explaining something like in depth to someone in the back of the party. So whatever they're learning about, whatever they're interested about at the moment, they're going to be giving someone the lowdown. So then we've got Cancer. This is open-hearted, caring, and imaginative. Cancers can be a little bit fearful of change, thus why I think my Cancer and my Taurus get along. And this is who you're going to call when you're sick. You're going to call your Cancer friend. They're going to show up with soup and really loving energy. So then we have Leo. Leos are very expressive. They're going to see life as a show and say, hey, might as well have fun performing. And they are spontaneous. This is who you want to go to for a last minute celebration. My mother is a Leo, so I would know this well. She knows how to put on a party. This is who you're going to want to have on dial for when you're wanting to embrace the fun, childlike sides of life. You're going to really have a good time with a Leo. So then we have Virgo. Virgos are idealists. This is why they're associated with perfectionists. Perfectionist a lot of times gets a really bad rap in our culture, but really I think a good word for it is idealist. They know what they want, they're driven to go get it, and they have really amazing standards and expectations for what they can achieve. And you know what? The Virgo is probably going to achieve it. So this is who you're going to send your paper to proofread. You know, they're detail oriented. They're going to catch what you maybe aren't, and it's a great skill. So then we've got Libras. Libras are always striving for beauty and harmony, thus the peacemaker. This is the person that's going to not want to get into a lot of conflict. They may be a little bit struggling to make decisions, to be decisive, but that's because Libras are really good at holding paradox. They can live in that gray area. They can hold on to things that are seemingly too disparate to bring together, and they might find that through line. They're going to be the glue of the group for this reason. They're going to bring different people together. Then we've got Scorpio. So they're here for an intense time, not for a long time. I'm just kidding. But the Scorpios are more into the intensity of life, death, sexuality, existential questions. The Scorpios are like diving in. You're going to have the deep talks with them. Lay up and look at the stars with the Scorpio, and you guys are going to be talking about the meaning of life in no time. Scorpios have an emotional intensity and sometimes can be pretty brutally self-aware. So then we've got Sagittarius. Sagittariuses are following their destiny. Life is an adventure. They want to experience it. So they're super adaptable and resilient. They can have a weak spot for romance. So maybe if you're a Sag or you've got a Sag friend that's a little bit of a hopeless romantic, hey, that's par for the course. It's part of the adventure. They are most likely to be famous, celebrity. So then we've got Capricorn. Capricorn, they have incredible integrity and determination. They are going to pick a mountain and they are going to scale it. They are hard workers, and least likely to give up on their dreams. So then there's Aquarius. Aquarius are about individuality. They are unique. They are seeking to challenge the status quo. they're going to speak out and be a trendsetter. You know, one of the examples in the Inner Sky book that I absolutely love for Aquarius is that someone had to be the first person to say, hey, I think even if we don't throw a human sacrifice into a volcano, I think the rain will still come. And so they are really seeing things in the future, how they could be, and they're going to speak up and they're going to say something about it. So if you want to change up your style, call your Aquarian friend. They're going to take you to the mall and they're not going to let you pick the same shit you always pick. And then lastly, we've got Pisces. Pisces are the daydreamers. They are lost up in their inner world because it is so detailed and will be able to open your eyes in imaginative ways, because Pisces are really in those deep subjective waters. So yeah, there we have it. That's all 12. Let me know what you think. If I missed an important quality or characteristic to any signs, let me know. I want to hear your sentence, please. If you fill in those blanks with the archetypes, let me know what your sentence sounds like. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.